Yeah.
All right. Is it okay to record this for
Yeah.
broadcast?
Yeah.
Okay, just
Yes.
making sure that you know we're recording.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pin this. And the hardest question I ever ask anybody is first name, last name, how you spell it, and your official title and organization you represent.
Mo Canady, Canady, and I serve as the executive director for the National Association of School Resource Officers.
I guess first and foremost, what does your organization do? Who's it meant for? And what do you guys do out there in the world of education?
NASRA has been around since 1991. We are the premier association in terms of training and membership services for school resource officers across the country. These are officers who are carefully selected and specifically trained to work in the K through 12 school environment. It's their specialized assignment within their agencies. Um, and so that's our goal is to train them to be able to do the job better and make a difference in the lives of students and to be there to provide a level of protection for students and faculty.
And over the years, since you've been around, I mean, what is sort of the general, I mean, you guys are the boots on the ground inside the schools. What's sort of the general overview for us older people with gray hairs that haven't walked inside of a school? What's the situation like inside of schools and safety from your guys' viewpoint?
Well, it's challenging. I've been around school safety. I was an SRO on the day in 1999 when the Columbine massacre happened. I'm been around to witness other, horrible tragedies that have occurred in schools. I've watched school safety kind of morph, if you will, just from that day moving forward. So lots of changes throughout, almost coming up on 3 decades, really. Um, and I think that, as we look at it right now, school safety and security is a complex thing. It's not as simple as some might want to make it sound or think, in terms of how we do this business. It's very complicated. We're dealing with communities that are predominantly inhabited by adolescents on a day-to-day basis, and that makes it challenging in so many ways. Schools are a very different animal from, say, an airport or a federal government building. So a lot of complexities within that.
I know here in Oklahoma, I mean, I remember back when I first started, back when I was younger and less gray. I mean, Fort Gibson, Oklahoma, it was like one of the earliest first school shootings in this region. And I remember as a young cameraman, it's like all of Dallas showed up, Houston showed up, because I mean, it was an unheard of thing, a kid turning a weapon at school. And now here we are. I mean, it's almost like we're sort of numb to it, sadly. Uh, who is ultimately accountable for ensuring students, whether they're in Oklahoma or anywhere in the country, the district, the state, is it law enforcement partners? I mean, who is ultimately accountable for keeping these kids safe?
Well, I think school safety is everyone's business to some degree. It really comes down, to a lot to be done at the local level, and there has to be a very solid partnership between the school district and the local law enforcement agency, whether that's the police department or the sheriff's office, whether they have SROs or not, and hopefully they do. But whether they have SROs or not, there has got to be a good relationship there, a good working relationship, because it really takes both sides of that fence to work hard to create a safe school environment. So a lot is laid at the local level. Certainly, then we can move to the state level where statewide policies and procedures are developed, mandates are handed down to some degree. So there's a lot at the state level, riding on school safety as well. But it really comes down to that local level and the measures that the community is able to take. Um, you know, each community really winds up making its own decisions about how they're going to attempt to keep the school safe. But there are no guarantees. There are things that we can do to really increase the layers of protection. But when you talk about uh, People ask the question sometimes, can you guarantee my child's safety at school? No, but I can tell you that we have these layers in place to make it as safe of an environment as possible. But at the end of the day, that responsibility really comes at the local level.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing sort of leads my next question is like, for when there is an incident at school, what systems have failed? I mean, to get to that point, I mean, how do you sort of forensically go, okay, the teacher heard something, oh, should we have investigated that? Is there different layers of systems that you sort of check mark when you're trying to like do the follow up and try to learn from previous incidents?
Well, there's certainly been all kinds of systems failures. I mean, when you think about, students who have slipped through the cracks, if you will, that really needed to go through some kind of a formal behavioral threat assessment process, or that discipline needed to be dealt with in a certain way. That, just those things that occur at times that we look back and see, well, no one intervened, and that's in the educational world, as adults in that education world, we have a duty to intervene when we see an issue or a concern. And that's important for us to understand. And that's where a lot of liability comes into play, is when you fail to intervene in a circumstance. And again, it sounds so easy to do, but it is very challenging in a K through 12 school environment.
I totally understand because I have two boys. One is 12 and one is just turned 13. And bullying and the different layers of bullying that exist now is mind-boggling. And
Yeah.
I mean, I've even had my kid say something bad in anger, which got investigated at involving the police department because he's like, I'm gonna bring my dad's pistol. And I'm like, oh, why'd you say that? He's like, well, I was mad. No one was listening to me. I wanted to be heard. And so it's sort of, uh, the kids, I mean, in their frustration, they say the wrong thing. They don't mean it, but here I was. Now I had to go through a battery of tests, and he was just having a bad day.
Well, and that does happen, and that's the reason for proper behavioral threat assessment to be conducted. Um, that doesn't mean every kid that goes through a behavioral threat assessment process is going to wind up being convicted of a crime. As a matter of fact, most of them are not. Sometimes we're able to get to the other end of that and go, okay, this child needs some services, and we need to get them into the right services and see if we can help correct this behavior so it doesn't happen again. Now, sometimes there are criminal charges that come up, and that's inevitable in some cases. And certainly we have to be willing on the law enforcement side to take those actions that are necessary to hopefully keep everyone else safe.
And so, what are some of the roles that resource officers do play at schools, and how are they used effectively, like in Oklahoma schools?
Well, and Oklahoma is an area where we've done a lot of training in the past, and so officers are trained in what we call a triad process, which means we teach them how to do their law enforcement role at school. But we also want them to learn how to be a good informal counselor, which is a skill set that officers develop on the street. And so we want to teach them how to bring that into the school environment in the proper way. And then we also want to teach them about the role of being a law-related educator. Really being able to spend a little time in the classroom, engage with students in that way, build relationships, um, and those kind of things. When we're doing those kind of things, and building those relationships, we're also creating opportunities to receive good information from students and from other adults and parents.
Okay. I guess I mean, there's different kind of threat assessments and de-escalation. For you guys that are in the law enforcement side of it, that's your training. But what about regular school staff, and how do you bring in the school staff and utilize what you guys know, and then also gently guide teachers that may be a little like, I don't want to be the law in the school. I just want to be a teacher, and then just balancing that, I guess that balancing beam of education and safety.
Well, we can't expect the other adults that are in the school environment to do what the school resource officers are supposed to do because they're not sworn law enforcement officers. That's not their expertise, and it is. And I do feel badly for teachers at times because they got into this to teach kids, not to have to be a safety expert. But unfortunately, the way our current day is with threats and violence that can occur, there does have to be another level of knowledge. And so one of the things that SROs understand that we can be a part of is helping educators understand, better how to be a part of the prevention process and recognize when things are not as they should be and reporting, sharing information, and how important that is. So really, a lot of times, for the teachers, they can be great eyes and ears in situations, and again, helping to maintain that safe environment by sharing information with the SRO.
There's this, I guess, this Project Unite. Sort of talk about Project Unite and what it does for schools and when school administrations, deploy these kind of like programs and projects.
NASRO offers a lot of different training opportunities, and one of those is a training called Project Unite. And what Project Unite does is it provides 2 days of very intense training for multidisciplinary school safety teams. All right. So these are teams that should be made up of a school resource officer, a mental health specialist, a school administrator, maybe a school counselor, a school nurse. These are teams that specifically work together within each individual school to really be the driving force behind school safety and really being very intentional about bringing forward policy and procedure changes that should occur to help the school become a safer place.
And how does the district roll out programs like that? I mean, because I mean, that's like you mentioned, 3 to 5 people for a team. For smaller districts, I mean, we have 77 different districts in Oklahoma, and some of these rural schools, they don't have the funding and the manpower to do all this. I mean, how can you, balance that with maybe the difference between urban and rural school settings?
Yeah, I think that the idea of the multidisciplinary school safety team works at all levels. It just may be different players that are in that. In other words, you may have a school administrator, maybe a school counselor, and maybe, a police liaison. Let's say they don't have an SRO, maybe someone from the police department or sheriff's office who meets with that team on a regular basis to provide that law enforcement side of this. Maybe someone from the fire department, even from an overall fire safety standpoint.
Uh, you know, uh, I know with like with my kids, I always ask. I mean, I'm sort of old school. I'm like, "What you do today? Anybody picking on you? What's going on?" Just getting a temperature. I mean, some parents they don't ask anything, and just looking at it, the mechanics of whether it's the parents asking the students or the students are talking to each other, or and then the reporting of like, "Hey, this one kid's been riding my kid," or my kid tells me another kid's been riding another kid. I mean, at what point do, parents get involved? Do students get involved? And the multi-pronged approach of trying to make sure, that, kids that are having a bad day don't end up having a really, really bad day by doing something, they'll regret.
Yeah, I think sometimes there's a fine line on some of those issues. Most instances of bullying does not contain criminal elements to it. And I think it's hard for people to understand sometimes. But those types of things, that speaks to the importance of parents having a good relationship with their child's teachers, within the school itself, and being able to share that kind of information with a confidant at the school. That probably wouldn't necessarily rise to the law enforcement level. But then again, it could cross over a line that it becomes harassment or abuse or, it could be, physical injuries, those kind of things. Then it becomes more criminal. So it kind of, I can't encourage parents enough to really, every time the opportunity is open at the school, to be there and to be engaged as much as they possibly can.
And I know recently here in I think Bixby, Oklahoma, there was some kind of firearm found on a middle school. And just when weapons are finally brought into, I guess, into the situation, whether I mean I grew up with as a Boy Scout with a pocket knife in school, and
Yeah.
I was like nobody was like, oh my gosh. Now everybody is so sensitive, so aware. I mean, honestly, I know that a kid doesn't need to be bringing a firearm, but I mean when there's like a pocket knife, a knife, I mean like when weapons are finally introduced, I mean that changes the whole dynamic for SROs.
Well, it does, and the intent is important there. Knives are a tricky thing because it's I'm with you. If it is it a Boy Scout pen knife, a Swiss Army knife that they've forgotten left in their backpack from a trip over the weekend, or do we have someone who has a serious tactical type knife with intent to do serious bodily harm? The intent is so important there in understanding that. So each case in that situation stands on its own. Now, firearms, different matter, different matter. That's a no humor zone. Absolutely.
I mean, and there's kids that now with these little gel guns and all these other things that look, I mean, it's got to be. I mean, because if you're a school safety officer and some kid pulls out an airsoft that they painted up to look realistic because that's what they do after school. I mean, yeah, it's got to be like a real touchy thing there.
That can cause someone to lose their life. It just if you think a gun is being pointed at you as a law enforcement officer, that's a deadly threat situation, and you're going to respond in that manner. We don't have the time or there's no way for us to call a timeout to see is this a real gun or not. Yeah.
Yeah. What are the proven strategies that are actually stopping school violence before it happens, and which are the most commonly used strategies that do work, and that some maybe that are in some of these smaller districts that don't work?
Relationships, number one. I know you probably expected me to hear me say door locks or cameras or relationships. And one of the things we're learning through the averted school violence database is that really works. Building good relationships with students, faculty, and parents yields information, intelligence, which gives us the opportunity to stop an act of school violence before it ever occurs. That's the number one thing. The rest of it is important. There's no question about it. We've got to have locked doors, locked perimeter doors. If there's a way to reasonably scan for weapons at a main entry point, great. Those types of things. There are a lot of great security technologies out there that can be an absolute game changer. But in my opinion, and being in this in a long time, there's nothing that tops the issue of good, positive relationships in that school environment.
I mean, that's sort of the old way, It's like, if you everybody trusts one another and there's not a adversarial relationship, it's more like a village and a family rather than a
Yeah.
place of business.
Well, it opens the door for a positive exchange of information.
Good
It
deal.
really does.
And then you sort of brought up, safety and scanning. I mean, and all the scanners. I mean, I've heard some people, oh, that's anybody can sneak into plastic. I mean, but when you're scanning for weapons, I mean, that just already secures everybody inside there. I mean, I know like some of my kids and their older stuff, they have to have clear backpacks at school. I mean, what are your thoughts on scanners, clear backpacks, and just, because I know my kids are like, it's a hassle when we have to go through the protocols because something happened and they roll out the scanners and they roll out the searches for for a couple of weeks just to get like everybody to
Well,
feel safe again.
here's the thing on weapons detection. If you're going to do it consistently. Don't do it for 3 months and then go, nothing's happened, and so we stop and get lazy with it. You have to be consistent. It has to become a regular practice. You have to make sure that equipment is maintained and calibrated. You have to make sure that the people who are using it um, are have the skill set to do so and are trained. You have to make sure that you have good policies and procedures around that. So those things can be very effective, but they have to be done properly and consistently, and you can't stop and start it. And So there's a lot that goes along with that. The clear backpack thing, I'm not a huge fan of that because, what's to stop, someone from rolling up a firearm in their gym clothes and putting it in the clear backpack? So are you going to search everything that you can't see in the clear backpack? Um, it sounds good, but there's still a lot of things that can be hidden in there.
Good deal. I know I was talking to some of my friends that have worked for TSA and stuff, and they're like, it's the, uh, what was they call it? It's the theater of safety. It's
Yeah.
like you make people believe you're safe, and it's more theater than actuality.
Yeah, you don't want to be creating a false sense of security, intentionally or unintentionally.
Okay. What should parents know about warning signs for maybe seeing different kind of behavior or escalating violence among students? I mean, what are sort of some of the tips that you would just in for a parent that may be new at parenting to pay attention to what, behaviorally?
Biggest thing is whatever social media your child is on, whatever they're doing online, you need to be engaged with it. Know what they're doing, have their passwords, those kind of things. And certainly, if you see anything concerning, report that to law enforcement. Um, Secondly, I mean, obviously, it's the same old adage with a lot of things. Decline in grades, loss of friends, loss of interest in their activities. Those kind of things are red flags. Be aware of what's in their room. Your adolescent living in your house doesn't have the same levels of right to privacy as if they're living out in their own home somewhere. This is your home as a parent. It's your home. It's your cell phone. You have the right to know what's on it, what's in it, and don't give up that right. And that doesn't mean that you don't care about your child having some privacy, but they have to know that you have the right to be in that room at any point or be on that cell phone at any time.
Yeah, yeah. If I ever back talked my old man, I'd be straight to the ground. But anyway, that's a different era we all grew up in.
It is.
And when say these, 'cause something bad happens at school, and the students are processing, the aftermath, whether somebody brought in a gun, a knife, a fight broke out, or worse yet, something bad happened where, law enforcement and the whole show shows up. What are the mental health resources that need to be offered at post incident when a school resource officer either has to, break up a fight? I mean, how do you like? I guess talk the village of youth about what happened and how do you, bring everybody back in the conversation of that's not an appropriate way of acting in school or in public. But now, because when you witness a violent act or something bad in school, what's the post, I guess, mental, assessment afterwards?
That's an area where we really lean into our friends in the mental health world. There's the National Association of School Psychologists who does some great work. School counselors, social workers. That's really an area where we try to lean into them, let them do their job there, and support them in whatever manner we can.
Okay, of course. So, I mean, let's see. I'm just going through a quick list here. Like, what message should Oklahoma families take from the recent increases in the school violence? I mean, because we've been seeing here locally, gun found here, a knife found there, big fight here. I mean, what should families take away from all this? And are our schools gone lawless, or is it a societal issue? What should parents at the end of the day worry about?
I think, first of all, schools, by and large, are still one of the absolute safest place for our children to be. I have grandkids in schools, so I don't sit around worrying about it all day long. It's still one of the safest places for them to be. Uh, Violence at schools is still kind of a random thing, even though it gets reported more and there's more instances of it. It's still most schools are not going to face those kind of issues. Now we have to be prepared for those kind of issues, but most schools are not going to face those. So I think that, again, by and large, one of the safest places for our students still to be. And so I know it can be alarming. I understand that. One of the best pieces of advice I can give parents is to be very well connected with their school and have as much of an understanding as they can of the security practices there.
Good deal. Is there a place where parents can go and look at safety audits or anything, or incident data publicly? I mean, is there some place, I know because there's that whole permission. It seems like if I, as a parent, want to know, like, well, how many incidents happened in Bixby last year that a weapon was, I mean, because I mean, as a dad, I'm sort of curious, and it just seems like all that information is sort of hard to find out there.
Yeah, I think it is kind of hard to find. I don't think it's readily available, for a variety of reasons, but certainly police reports is the best way to try and track that.
Okay. And some Oklahoma still districts still don't have SROs or training for behavioral threat assessment teams. What would you say to those districts out there that may not have implemented all these kind of things?
Build a relationship with a local law enforcement agency and at least have a liaison, someone that can be your contact at the police department or sheriff's office.
Good deal. Good deal. Is there anything else that I'm not touching on? You want to get out there with your national organization where people can learn more, or if some smaller districts, their resource officers may not have enough information and they're trying to build it, can they reach out to you guys? I mean,
Yeah, if you want to know more about SROs, reach out to us at nasro.org, nasro.org, and we have a team that's ready, willing, and able to help share that information.
good deal. And is there a resource for parents to like learn more about what you guys do and have maybe a continuing conversation with people that are directly in that, or should they look at for their local school chapter? Or I mean, how
I think local chapters are helpful with that. They may find some useful information on our website. And there's also an organization called Stand with Parkland, coming out of the Parkland tragedy a few years ago. A real good organization as well. Stand with Parkland.
Good deal. Good deal. Anything else you'd like to add? This is open mic.
I think that's got it.
All right. Sorry, I asked a ton of questions because I don't know where the powers that be want to go with this. So I just want to make sure I was thorough and, I don't want any sensationalism. I just want the facts from the experts.
No, I really appreciate it, and I wish you the best with your story.
All right. Thank you for your time, sir. And if I don't see you, which I probably won't for a while, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and may your prosperous New Year be coming.
Merry Christmas to you as well. Thank
All
you.
righty. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.